Hello, everyone, and welcome to Fiverr's International Women's Day panel, For Her, By Her, where we will celebrate women who have built businesses with a female clientele in mind. From sustainable period products to a friendship matching app to digital healthcare advocacy, there is truly no limit to what these women have to offer. They're improving the world for women as they grow their businesses, and I cannot wait to hear more. I'm going to start by introducing myself. I'm Abigail Pumphrey, CEO of Boss Project and host of the Strategy Hour podcast. I have been helping women build businesses around the world for the last 9 years. At Boss Project, we're here to support you from startup to scale up, from your very first sale as a freelancer to $1 million CEO. Today's conversation is hosted by Fiverr, an online marketplace empowering freelancers and businesses to connect, collaborate, and create. Fiverr's mission is to change the way the world works and help individuals and small businesses find success. Women are one of the fastest growing demographics in the small business arena. 50% of new small businesses were founded by women in 2023, compared to just 29% in 2019. Women are filling gaps in the market with their products and building a workplace that is built for women to succeed. We hope you enjoy today's conversation. And if you want to check out our International Women's Day video, it is excellent, by the way, or visit any of our speakers' websites. We'll provide the link to you in the landing page in the chat. I know all of us, myself included, are excited to hear from all of these women about how they built their businesses using Fiverr talent. Before we get into questions, a quick reminder, and then I'll have the speakers introduce themselves. This is going to be a two-part conversation. We'll be answering audience questions in the second half of this panel discussion. To submit your question, please submit in the questions tab of the chat or write in the comment section if you're over on LinkedIn, YouTube, or Facebook. There is also a $100 Fiverr credit available for everyone joining from events.fiverr.com who fills out our events survey. We will be sharing it in the chat and also be emailing it to you if you registered. Now let's get started with some introductions. Anna, I'm going to pass it over to you.
Hi everyone, I'm Anna from Tasker. We're based in London. We are an online booking platform for homeowners to book tradeswomen online. We're really passionate about normalising women in trade and showcasing the 35,000 tradeswomen that we have in the UK. We're also really passionate about enabling homeowners to be able to book skilled tradespeople online. And in the UK specifically, where we are, that process is quite analog. So we enable our homeowners to book, find, and pay tradeswomen completely online.
I love that. Annette, how about yourself?
Hiya. So I'm the co-founder of Yes Girl, the friendship app for women who want meaningful connections. We started building the app late last year and we're hoping to launch the second half of this year. In the meantime, we currently run in-person events for women to attend alone with the intention to meet new people and make new friends. And we're currently based in London.
Friendship is such an important component of building a business and celebrating women. So I'm so glad you're here. Elsie.
Hi everyone, my name is Elsie Amoko and I'm the CEO and founder of Nino Care. We connect Black parents with various perinatal and reproductive care services. So basically we help them to find services that are culturally safe, so it's the same languages, etc., and connect them to them.
Incredible. Ganete.
Hello, my name is Ganete Jones, founder and CEO of Best Period, which is a mission-driven menstrual care company helping make periods sustainable, fun, comfy, and cool for the first time. So words typically not synonymous with periods or period care. And our first products are menstrual cups, so reusable period products. However, I always say it's the genesis of a mega brand. The menstrual cups are just our first products, but we have many more to come.
Amazing. Catherine.
Hi, everyone. My name is Catherine Fulkent, and I'm the founder and CEO of Femtech Insider. Femtech Insider is a global media platform, and we champion innovation in women's health. So we cover anything from digital health to biotech to pharma and anything and everything in between. And our hope is to drive more investments into the women's health innovation space and also connect innovators with their audiences online.
It's so important to be funding women in business. I am so passionate about that. So thank you so much for being here. Now that we've all introduced ourselves, I want to hear more about your businesses. What inspired you to start your company, and how is it bringing something entirely new to the market? Annette.
Before Yeska actually pivoted into a friendship app, my co-founder and I were dibbling and dabbling in different things. One of which was actually events, specifically a paint party we had near the end of 2022. And we were quite surprised by the amount of girls who actually attended by themselves with the intention to meet new people. So it kind of got us thinking, and it led us down a rabbit hole of research. We learned more about the loneliness epidemic, and despite our event, how an increasing amount of Gen Z and millennial women felt stuck online, but they were turning to friendship apps to make friends. However, we'd seen that many had frustrations with what was currently available, as the most popular friendship apps were essentially like replicas of dating apps, and also many weren't exclusive to just women. So we thought, okay, what if an app actually prioritized what these women want in friendship? So we found that authenticity was the highest value, but basing swipes on the look of someone's photo just isn't genuine. That's why we've designed Yes Girl, so women can create meaningful connections by matching and bonding with complementary personalities. So in short, they can take a short MBTI personality test, discover their type, and then from there get recommended matches based on their compatibility. However, we don't just want to stop there. We want to create an environment where the next step is meeting in real life, because essentially that's what turns connections into real friendships. And we want to do this through offline driven app features as well as in-person events too.
Well, I'm biased, but I would love to see this expand internationally. There's a huge hole in the market here in the US, and I know so many women are craving that connection. And this is such a powerful movement, and I'm so excited to see how it grows and expands from here. It is something we all need. So thank you. Elsie, I'd love to hear more about what inspired you.
Yeah, so Mino Care, the name comes from, I don't know if anyone has seen like Black Panther and seen like the warriors who are protecting the king, but it comes from them, and they're called the Mino, which means our mothers. And what came from that is the understanding that we realized we were advocates for our community. We realized that we weren't just connecting people with care, but we were supporting them. And when we saw that, we were like, we're the Mino. So that's where Mino Care comes from. And this started during my master's a few years ago after doing my research. Just realizing the disparities when it came to Black maternal health, not just in Canada, but within North America and the UK as well. And just trying to figure out what we can do within our country to help to alleviate a lot of the adverse outcomes. So we started off honestly by just birth justice workshops, and then we ended up actually providing services. And now we provide a variety of services, everything from mental health support to connecting people with midwives, social work, pregnancy massage, doula care, like you name it. And we kind of provide it at this point. And we connect parents with those services, and we provide them with care professionals who are also Black, also all women for the most part, and make sure that they just have the best possible care. And then in addition to that, we started our conference, which is Mino Fest, with the Reproductive and Maternal Health Conference, which we do annually here in Canada. And it's been amazing to see how healthcare professionals and patients are coming together to really make a change.
Incredible. I really want to point out that you are all of you have mentioned that you focused first on research, and you found a hole in the market, and you really went after it to ensure that you are meeting the needs of the people you want to serve. And that's such a huge, important piece of the puzzle. Now, Ganete, what inspired you to start your company?
My inspiration, it started off selfish, actually. So it was during COVID times, and we didn't want to touch or do anything at the beginning of COVID. I had someone on my podcast, and she created a hair care company. And just in speaking to her, I was starting to think of something I can create that's a physical product that creates real change in the world around me. But I didn't know what it was initially. And then a few weeks later, my period came on, and I'm like, I got it. I want to change everything I hate about menstrual cups I've tried in the past. I wouldn't have to continuously go to the supermarket or to grab one from a pharmacy or whatever, because, period products you have to buy all the time. But with menstrual cups, they're reusable. So I just set out to do that. And I changed things I hated about them. I hated the little lint producing baggies they came in. So we have a cute case. I hated that a lot of them didn't have higher enough capacity. So ours is super high capacity. Because the reality is, something many people don't know is Black women on average tend to have more likely, 2 to 3 times more likely to have fibroids, and are also more likely to have heavier flows. So because of that, I wanted to ensure we created a product that had higher enough capacity for those with heavy flows, but also was comfortable enough for those who had lighter flows. And I changed those things along with a whole lot of other things I hated about menstrual cups I tried in the past. And that's how we started out.
Oh, well, thank you so much. As someone who struggles with PCOS, I am constantly thinking about how I can be more comfortable on my period. So thank you. Catherine, how about yourself? What inspired your company?
Well, you actually just mentioned it. So I was my background is really in tech, and I spent the first kind of years of my career in the tech space, working from fintech and productivity software companies. And then in my early 30s, I was diagnosed with PCOS, which you just mentioned, so polycystic ovary syndrome. For those of you that maybe are not so familiar with it, it's a hormonal imbalance that affects around 1 in 10 women. And when I was diagnosed with it, I had never heard of it. And so as somebody that had that idea of myself of I know about women's health and I know what it takes to actually stay healthy, this diagnosis kind of really hit me as a bit of a shock at the time.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I always like to tell people it was a little bit bittersweet, because on the one hand, I finally had an explanation for all these symptoms I was experiencing. But on the other hand, it was also like, oh, okay, I need to learn how to actually manage a chronic condition now. And so coming from finance and fintech, there were all these niche publications that were covering, smaller aspects of these industries. And I was frankly quite shocked and disappointed that there was nobody writing about this intersection of innovation in women's health or reproductive health, which arguably affects 100% of the world's population, because a lot of us were actually born to a woman. So I just kind of, started writing about this space and covering this space, and it took it from there. It's like the usual story of a side project that ended up taking over my life. And so it's been 5 years. I still love this space. I love covering entrepreneurs in this space. I mean, 2 of them are on this call today. So, that's kind of what gets me out of bed in the morning. And yeah, that's a little bit the story behind Femtech Insider.
Incredible. Anna, how were you inspired to start your company?
So myself and my husband, who's also my co-founder, we were doing some work on our home. And I think as in many kind of heterosexual couples, the woman tends to be the one that project manages kind of home improvements. And I was bringing in tradesmen, so I was getting them to come to our property to look at, it was a kitchen renovation, come to our property to come and speak to us and sort of show what we needed to be done. And I'd email them, get them to come over, and they'd immediately talk to my husband when they arrived at my house. It really annoyed me. So I couldn't believe that I hadn't even thought about a woman, like a tradeswoman. So I went online to see if I could find, at the time we were looking for a kitchen fitter, and there was just nothing representing women in trade. All of the websites that we went on to kind of look for tradespeople, all of the imagery, all of the words, it was tradesmen, it was photos of men. And so I was just like, this is insane. Like, this was in end of 2020, start of 2021. And the other frustration that I was having as well was the fact that I'm sort of just on the cusp of being a millennial. I'm kind of clutching onto that. We live in the city. We're used to things kind of being delivered. We use Deliveroo, we use Uber Eats, things like that. And in the UK, to find a tradesperson, you had to go onto a directory, you read their reviews, you then have to email them, you then have to chase them to get a quote. There's so much work on behalf of the customer, and we wanted to see if we could change that. So we built a model where a homeowner can get an immediate quote for a job online, and then once they've put their job out onto our system, one of the tradeswomen who works with Tasker can pick it up, and it's completely free for the tradeswomen to use as well. So that's kind of what we decided.
Amazing. I love that. And I know it is such a huge problem everywhere. Finding quality people is so frustrating. I've renovated 2 homes and, ended up being the general contractor because it was so hard to find quality help. So I totally understand. I know we all have talked about what inspired us, but I want to hear why specifically serve women. Why did you choose to have that be the basis of who you reach out to? I know at Boss Project, when I decided to start my business, I specifically served women because that felt so obvious to me. It wasn't even a second question. It wasn't a certain experience or challenge that led me down that path, other than I wanted something that was missing for myself in the market. But I'd love to hear your stories. What inspired you to specifically serve women? Elsie.
I think that throughout my graduate career, I was very much focused on just the health of the Black community overall. But as I continued to do my own research and I realized the adverse experiences that Black women had specifically, and specifically when it came to perinatal health and reproductive health, and the fact that they're 3 times more likely to experience a complication that could lead to life-threatening morbidities or mortality, or that they're dealing with just experiences that are intersected to all the social factors that impact their day-to-day lives, and how detrimental it is for them, no matter where you look in the world, really. Much of a global epidemic, like this maternal health experiences for a lot of Black women, I realized that it was something I had to focus on. I took a lot of time after my research. Honestly, I took a year just to see if anybody else would do it. I noticed that in Canada, nobody was doing anything. So I was like, okay, I'm going to go back, take my research, take the recommendations I made, and then I'm going to turn this into something. I don't know what. And I always say, so it was the weirdest story. I went to a tech conference at my school, and it was for the Chinese Association and at my university. And I was doing my graduate degree, and I was like, let me just go during one of my breaks. And the entire conference was in Chinese, but the health tech that they were presenting was so interesting that it actually gave me ideas on how I could start my business. So I always say, like, that's kind of like really where it started, like from the research to recognizing that this problem isn't being solved to what can I do next. And from there, it's just been pivoting and adjusting and learning my clients and the people I'm serving and just supporting them.
Yeah. Well, Ganete, I know obviously running a menstrual care company, you work with people who have uteruses. That's just part of the whole thing. But is there a reason you started working with those people?
Well, it's 2 reasons, really. One, well, I have a period each and every month, right? And it's something that I don't think we should dread each and every month. Half the world's population has either had a period, they're going to have one, or they've had one in the past. And I think it's something we really need to approach with care, how we are creating products around it and how we're talking about it. And I also have a 17-year-old. So I have a Gen Zer. And because of that, I want to make sure that she's growing up in a world where there's products available to her that make her experience the best period possible. And for that reason, I decided to move forward with a period product.
Amazing. Catherine, I know there's a huge hole in women's funding, but why exclusively women?
Well, I mean, I'm really focused on the women's health aspect. So we're not specifically focused on kind of, funding for female founders.
Okay.
So we're really interested in improving women's health for women specifically. And I think the reason I decided to exclusively focus on women's health is very simple. Women's health is, as we've just heard from Gainete and also Elsie, is underfunded, under-researched, and completely underserved. A lot of the medication that we take on a daily basis has never been tested on women. There's a huge gender data gap. There's a research gap. The sleep aid women may be taking, the painkillers, the anti-inflammatories, may have never actually been tested on a woman. And I think this is a huge problem. And I really want to contribute to that change. And I think we need funding in this space, and we need entrepreneurs like Gainete and Elsie in this space. And we need to also, ensure that consumers know about the products and solutions that are out there that could potentially help them to manage their health and lead to better health outcomes.
Yes. Anna, obviously you're in a male-dominated industry. So choosing to exclusively work with women in this way is really revolutionary. But why?
Well, I suppose for two reasons. It started off for kind of the selfish reasons as well. You know, obviously I was like, I want to find a tradeswoman. Why is it so difficult to, you know, why is there no real presence? Why aren't they being represented? Why isn't the language, you know, isn't the language being used sort of geared towards women as well as men? But the more we kind of, and also from a customer's perspective, I should say as well, obviously, a lot of our customers are professional women who want to support women who are feminists, but also, you know, there are women who, for religious reasons, they would prefer a female in their home. Women who've experienced any kind of violence in their past would feel more comfortable. We work with women's refuges, so like there's the customer element. But the more that we dove into the world of the trades, the more tradeswomen we spoke to, and the more kind of statistics that we looked at, we realized that there was this huge disparity between school leavers, essentially. In the UK, if you don't go to university, you're kind of filtered in to kind of lower paid jobs as a woman or as a girl. So you'll go into cosmetology, hairdressing, childcare, all of which are kind of capped at actually a really low yearly salary, whereas their male peers were going into, they're automatically kind of filtered into the trades world, where they're becoming plumbers and electricians. And in London, as a plumber, a heating and gas engineer, and electrician, you can earn 70,000, 80,000 pounds a year. And so there's a huge loss in lifetime earnings for female tradespeople, and that has kind of really spurred us on to kind of focus on both sides now as well.
Yes, I think pay is such a huge piece of this puzzle. Annette, obviously you put girl in your name, so friendship is a key component of any woman's life, but why focus on exclusively women's friendship?
I think just because me and my co-founder, we love women, we love being women, and also more importantly, community is just very much up there for us. So we knew that whatever we created, we just wanted that to really shine through. A big part of our brand as well, and this friendship app, is the fact that we've been best friends for 13 years. And we're also each other's most compatible match, according to the MBTI personality test. So when it came to designing the friendship, we knew that although, yes, our friendship occurred by chance, what if we could give other girls the opportunity to kind of have what we have if we're able to recommend them friends based off compatibility?
Compatibility, such a huge part of it. And it definitely creates that synergy that you can't really describe. It's just part of it from the very beginning. Amazing. I'm a business strategist. And so I want to get into the tactical stuff. I want to know how you built your businesses, how you got them off the ground, how you are making them successful today. Because you all chose massive ideas that need to be focused on and big holes in the market. But how are you tactically getting started and moving in the right direction? And I am curious, how long have you guys been in business? So I'm going to start with you, Ganete.
Awesome. So we launched in January 2021. So we're 3 years old. We're still babies. And for me, because it was COVID time, and like I said, I used the cup that I had tried in the past and it leaked. I've tried a ton of cups and it just didn't work. I have a heavy and high enough capacity. I started by creating a list of all the things I hated about the cups I tried in the past. And then after that list, I created a list of the things I wanted to change. And from there, I went to on Google, which I think is everyone's first step, to see where you can go, who you can reach out to. Of course, we got doctors on board. We also ensured we spoke to obviously gynecologists and even obstetricians for the postnatal piece of things. And we wanted to make sure we had the correct information in our instruction manuals. We reached out and worked with a female engineer to create our cup because it's not a white labeled product. We wanted to create a stem that made it easier to remove. And we had a whole bunch of different things. And because of that, I went head on. And I'm someone who, once I have an idea, I dive straight in. And I believe I could do all things through Christ Jesus who strengthens me. So I said, I'm going to set out and try to finish it before end of year. Did not happen, but I got it done.
You got it done. I am so proud. 3 years in, there's a lot that happens in those first 3 years, and they can be challenging, but also so empowering. and you're building an actual product, which, you know, is a feat all on its own. Catherine, what about you? What were the tactical first steps you took to getting this going in the right direction?
So I think the women's health innovation ecosystem is still pretty nascent. So, you know, I've been in this, or have been writing and covering this space for the past 5 years. And yet it feels like we're really only just getting started. And I said at the beginning of the year, it feels like there's finally a little bit of momentum in the space. But we're also in challenging economic times. But going back to the first 5 years ago, the ecosystem looked very, very different. There wasn't much of an ecosystem, to be honest. So I think, you know, it was kind of, you know, sort of fragmented groups that were kind of trying to kind of move parts of this ecosystem, or like kind of, you know, just helping to advance things in subcategories of the women's health space. And I think my really first strategy was to just speak to all these other people that were already in the space, and, you know, just, you know, also writing about them, covering their work, and just bringing that community together. And I think, you know, those people that we interviewed in the very, very early days and just kind of, you know, helped get some reach, some publicity in the very early days, they're still our biggest supporters to this day, because, you know, to a certain extent, we have grown up alongside a lot of the entrepreneurs in our space. And, you know, again, I'm an entrepreneur myself. I'm not just a journalist that's employed by a big tech blog or whatever. Like, I've built just as everybody else has built, and I've built alongside a lot of the women in our space. And so, you know, this sisterhood that's been there from the very beginning goes a very, very long way, even 5 years later. So I think, you know, it's really in the very beginning, understand the people that are in similar spaces, you know, team up with them, make them your allies, collaborate, find ways you can support each other along these journeys. And I think, you know, it will pay off 1,000-fold down the line.
Yes, the lifting them up, the collaborations, the supporting each other. I know that was a huge part of my story as well. And I loved the concept of almost turning myself into a media company in the very early days, where I wanted to cover things about my industry online, because I just didn't feel like anyone was talking about it. And so bringing that news to the people, I think, is such an incredible place to start. And you can learn so much from observing other people in your industry. Anna, I'm going to kick it over to you. What was some of the tactical first steps? Like, you're building an app that's connecting people that they're actually hiring. And you mentioned that you're not charging the tradespeople to use it. So what's your structure, and how did you get an app off the ground?
Well, I'll start by saying that myself and my co-founder, we have no trades experience. So my experience is in marketing. He's had a marketplace startup before, so he had some experience in sort of building a marketplace platform. We started by speaking to people, but from both sides of the marketplace. So our target audience, making sure that this was something that people would actually want to use, and then most importantly, really speaking to tradeswomen. We would literally sit on Zoom every evening and just ask them questions about what frustrates them about being a woman in skilled trades, what frustrated them about the platforms that were currently available, and just kind of pulled all of that kind of information together and worked to build a prototype, which we then have turned into our kind of, which is still our MVP essentially, which we built in no code, to build something that kind of served both sides. And yeah, so basically the reason that it's free for tradesmen to use is to kind of stop that barrier for them to build their businesses. They're all of the tradeswomen who work with us work on they're all sole traders. They all work for themselves. They pick up jobs from us like an Uber driver might. And we didn't want them to have to then pay for that luxury as well, because getting into the trades is difficult enough when you're female. So yeah, it was all about just pulling in as much information as possible and utilizing the skills that we had to sort of plug the gaps that a lot of tradespeople don't have. They're not necessarily natural marketeers, and basically and enabling customers to be able to book online, which is obviously we put our markup is on the customer side. They're essentially paying for the product, but it enables us to still offer like really amazing rates for our customers and pay our tradesmen super fairly as well.
Incredible. I think there's so many key things to pull out there, specifically that you spent so much time getting to know not just who you're marketing this to, like who you're selling it to, but also who's the foundation behind the scenes, because it takes a whole team to make this possible. And you listening, like there's so much value in active listening and paying attention and really knowing the needs of the people you're serving. So incredible job. Thank you so much. Annette, obviously you started in events and then you're working towards building this app, but what were some of the tactical things you did to get started?
Yeah, so for us, when we knew that we wanted to work on this friendship app, someone actually got into contact with us about applying to an accelerator program, which we're so thankful that we did, because we were successful. We got on, and the program was for about a year, and it just provided us with so many like tools and resources in regards to like starting a business, especially within tech, that we just weren't privy to at all. So we started that program February of last year. And then after a few months of just like developing our idea, we had a pitch the end of summer, and we were really lucky because we were granted some money. And then we thought, oh, now that we have this money, we're going to go off, get a developer and build the app. But we were absolutely wrong. Apps are very expensive. So we were kind of at like a crossroads in terms of like, what do we want to do? Because I think when, you have like an amazing idea and you feel really passionate about your business, you want it to be the best of the best. But we just like realized we've just got to scale down. It's okay to start small. And we decided to build the app ourselves using a low code platform. So yeah, that's what we've been doing since maybe November last year. But in the meantime as well, just so we're growing that community, and we're putting our faces out there. We have started our in-person events again as of February this year. And yeah, by the end of summer, the app should be launched. So really exciting.
That is really exciting. And I think, it's true. A lot of us would love to hire developers and go out and build these really expensive infrastructures. And we often all have to start scrappy and build it from the ground up ourselves. So incredible. Elsie, what about you? What were the tactical first steps to building your business?
I think like similar to a lot of people here, I started off, like I said earlier on, with my own personal research, but then went right into market research as well. Also got pulled into an accelerator. They made me kind of pushed to do things a little too quickly, which now looking back, I feel like I wish I hadn't done. But I went to accelerator, and honestly, the business itself, I think the first few years was a lot of R&D, and also just trying to find some good people to work with, trying to figure out how to build our app. And then 2021, I would say, like during COVID specifically, is when we really started providing services. And that was when we really started to understand our market, understand that we were getting way more referrals from hospitals, community health centers, midwifery centers, and that was our main clientele. And that's how we were getting our patients. And that helped us to really structure our business structure and get more contracts. And that's what we've been doing since.
Yeah, I think a lot of people assume they have to go straight to a consumer, but working B2B is such a great opportunity to have more access to cash. So no shame there. All right. I know a key component to celebrating Women's History Month is, of course, intersectionality. And as a business owner, I want to know how you guys are making sure that your product or service is accessible to a diverse audience. Catherine, I'd love to start with you.
Yeah, so I think, whenever you build a business, or, especially if you're like a solo entrepreneur, you carry a bunch of experiences from your life into your business. And in my case, it happens to be those in the healthcare system as a Central European white cis woman that, you know, has by all means always had pretty good insurance. And that is an incredible privilege. And I'm very aware that this is not the experience of a lot of people as they specifically interact with the healthcare system. And so for me, from the very beginning, it was incredibly important in the work we do, the work we cover, the innovation we cover, to ensure that it's balanced and that it addresses, you know, the needs of people from various different ethnicities, various different socioeconomic realities, and obviously also various different sort of, you know, genders. And in order to achieve that, specifically as a media company, and I am very aware of the responsibility we have specifically as a media company to kind of be very, very serious and very intentional about this. So we do have advisory boards, both on the patient side and also on the ecosystem side, as we like to call it. So specifically the ecosystem side is like investors, researchers, innovators, and the patient one is obviously patient and end users. And what we also do once a year, we analyze our content and look at all the content we've covered, look at all the imagery we've used, and sort of, you know, look at kind of, you know, what we've actually put out there in terms of diversity and in terms of representation. I think that is an incredibly important exercise, frankly, for any media company, because it really helps you to understand your blind spots. And I'm very, very proud that as a very, very small operation, we actually, you know, are doing this every year. And I can definitely recommend this to everybody else who runs a media company because it's so incredibly important.
Incredible. I love you have a whole team of people holding you accountable to standard. I think that's really great. Anna, you already mentioned specifically it being important that you're working with women because many women wouldn't be comfortable with a male in their household, regardless of why, but potentially trauma or domestic violence or other issues. Obviously, you were sensitive from the beginning, but what other things came up for you to really address and pay attention to being accessible?
Yeah, so as you mentioned, we work with well, from the customer side again. So we really focus on both sides. So from the customer side, we work with women's refuges. We have a partnership with one specifically where our referral scheme enables them to kind of gather credits to use in their refuges, so that the women living there can hire one of our tradeswomen using credits. We're obviously, you know, super sensitive around ensuring that all of the customers that we do have are happy to have a man in their home should they accompany a tradeswoman. Because a lot of the time tradeswomen will work in a team and they might work with a man, so we're always asked up front to see if that's going to be an issue, and if it is, then that particular tradeswoman won't go. But from the trades women's side, we're super inclusive. We welcome all professional tradeswomen who from all, you know, a diverse cultural backgrounds, women of color, LGBTQIA women of different religions. If they identify as women and they are a qualified tradeswoman, they are welcome to work with us. And that then opens doors to more customers who are more comfortable with a variety of different women. We have customers who are gay men who feel more comfortable. We have, you know, our customers are also straight men who feel more comfortable with women. My co-founder is, you know, he gets a bit worried if a sort of very manly man will come over and start trying to talk about football and sports with him. He'd prefer a woman to speak to. So we're not specifically, our audience is obviously targeted at women. We are not specifically only available to women.
Yeah. I think that's really important. The focus on safety, I can feel it and I appreciate it. Annette, what about you? How are you approaching this?
Yeah, so my co-founder and I are both women of color, so it was really important for us that diversity is synonymous with our brand. At in-person events, we asked for written feedback, and it's great to see that we have had some attendees highlight that they're really happy to see a mix of people in attendance. And I feel like it's just because we've been able, and I feel like we've been able to accomplish this from our marketing and our branding and really putting like our diverse team out there. We also ensure that when we do have events, we try and use like wheelchair accessible venues. But I feel like there's still a lot more for us to do in terms of like meeting like visual, hearing, or speech barriers. But these are definitely areas that we especially want to factor in when we're building our app. We have, back to the events, we have 2 upcoming collaborations with queer-friendly platforms, just to ensure that we're being as accommodating as possible to those who are women-aligned or non-binary. But ultimately, we just want to be seen as a safe space for anyone who does identify as a woman. And that's a lot of active work on our part that we're committed to doing.
Yeah, the commitment has to be there. I love it. Elsie, what about you when it comes to prioritizing accessibility?
Yeah, so that's a part of our mission, right? Our mission is based in innovation of choice, like your ability to protect your data, the ability to access care regardless of who you are. We prioritize Black pregnant persons and Black birthing persons, Black women, because we know that they have the worst outcomes according to research, but we never turn anyone away. So most of the referrals that we do get are typically people who would be considered quote unquote like high risk, who are dealing with other things that intersect their general experience. So other factors like they may be dealing with poverty, or they may be dealing with substance use, or they may be dealing with just a variety of different things. And what makes our work so beautiful is that they have the opportunity to come in and receive all of the possible or necessary supports and healthcare to help them to have the best possible care outcomes and care experience. And that's what we've really, really, really tried to ensure that we've done from the beginning, and hopefully we'll maintain forever.
Oh, I hope we can continue to improve the outcomes for this group of people, because there's no excuses for why they get worse care. And I am so glad that that's your focus. Ganete, what about you when it comes to really creating that accessibility?
Yeah, so we approach it from a few different angles. So, of course, on the social channels, but we go beyond where, social channels are and where impact's really felt. So, for me, growing up, I had never seen even an instruction manual with skin that wasn't, how they do the fake cartoons and the skin's like yellow or it's like a peachy color. I had never seen brown skin or anything else. So, we had that in our instruction manual really early on. We created that. But beyond that, it was creating cups with higher capacity for those who are suffering from like heavier flows, which does tend to impact a lot of BIPOC consumers. But beyond that as well, it's also we approach it in a sense of just from accessibility as well, because we know that period poverty is an issue that impacts people all over the world. And we work with so many people that can't afford a product like a menstrual cup, maybe because it sits on shelves for 30 something dollars, right? And we get that not everyone can. So we work with many charities and have donated directly to charities. Like we work with Petsy, which sends products to South America, throughout the US and Kenya. We've worked with companies and actually sent products to schools called Hope Academy in Sierra Leone. We've worked with We Bleed Bermuda, which I'm actually from Bermuda originally. So we work with a company in Bermuda, a charity that donates cups to people who cannot afford them. So we approach it from the affordability standpoint, as well as, from all and standpoints, we tend to look at it. And even on a branding perspective, I know I personally was tired of the quote unquote feminine colors associated with fem care, right? The pinks, the purples. So I'm like, you know what, we're throwing yellow on this thing and it's going to be gender neutral, So I just try to look at it from every possible angle to see how we can approach it beyond just the superficial piece of, hey, we have 3 people that are all different colors on our social channel. Like it has to be more than that. And that's really where we have our focus.
Yeah. Well, we all know today we are here and partnered with Fiverr. I want to know how Fiverr has supported your journey and your goals and how they're part of your story. Anna, what's your experience?
Well, I was lucky enough to win the Female Founders Competition that was a partnership with Fiverr and Virgin Startups. And so I've kind of had a bit of basically a lovely pot of credits to use since November. And we have literally used them every single day we did a photo shoot on Monday this week where we found our photographer who as we photograph new images for our marketing. We use them for our SEO, for website builds, for graphic design, like literally everything. We've built a whole we're looking at, well, we've been working on recreating the way that our customers book with us. So at the moment on our site, it's kind of like a sort of click-through Q&A where you kind of get to your quote quite quickly for your particular booking. Say you were booking to have a light fitted. We've been working with an AI expert on Fiverr who's created a chatbot for us to allow our customers to talk to us and book specific jobs that way, which enables customers who don't quite know what they're after because they're not sure what trade they need or what jobs they need. The AI can answer those questions, which hopefully will be going live soon. So it's been transformative for us. We're a team of 2.5 people. We're still my co-founder, Paul, and our customer service manager, Claire, who works half days every day. The rest of our team has basically been powered by Fiverr.
Incredible. You have done a lot. And I think it's incredible that you'll be able to have that continued flexibility to hire as needed. Because I do see a lot of people hire too quickly full-time staff that they can't simply afford to retain. And so having access to that is so huge. Annette, what's your experience been like?
Yeah, so like even before we even made the pivot to a friendship app, anytime with Yes Girl, if we had a problem, we'll just run to Fiverr. So like whether that's from like making sure like emails don't end up in like people's junk boxes to like stopping our website from going down. So like yeah, Fiverr's been a lifesaver. But yeah, now that we're a lot more comfortable, a lot more established, and the type of assistance that we are getting from freelancers, I would say would be like branding refreshes, like logos, and also some like specialist support with some of our app features. One really cool feature we want to incorporate within our app is potentially like a blind matching feature. So that will like run from like AI. So yeah, that's a really exciting one.
Yeah. Elsie, what sort of support have you had from Fiverr?
Fiverr actually has been like a part of our story from the very start. Like Fiverr helped us build our first website, helped us create our first wireframe for our app, helped us to build like websites not just for the app, but our like Mino Care, but also for Mino Fest, our conference. So we continue to use it now. Now that we're a part of this amazing program, we're now using it more so for AI and for development. And I think just like you said earlier on, because we can't build the biggest team right now, it really is a godsend because it gives us the extra support that we can't have full time, but we still get enough of it to get the work done to move us to the next level and to help us to scale. So yeah, I'm always grateful.
Yeah. Ganete, what's been your experience with Fiverr?
I've used Fiverr since goodness 2015 or 2015 I believe. I've been an entrepreneur since then, but for this business particularly since even 2020 before we launched, I used Fiverr on the development side because you have your website and I'm not a techie, so I'm like, okay, there are things I want to do that these templates do not allow. So I reached out to some Fiverr developers, and what I had them to do was create the little plus drop down for our FAQ section, something that seems really small, but it makes the website just more interactive. So we did that. I've used them to create little GIF images or GIF images. I know it's a big debate about how you pronounce that, but I've used them to create those. So if you go on Instagram and type in best period, you'll see like a bunch of those come up, and that's thanks to Fiverr. Even the illustrations on our on our instruction manual, I used the Fiverr graphic designer to create. So they didn't make the instruction manual itself. We have our designer doing that, but the little graphics, the pictures of the cups, and I gave them direction, told them what I wanted it to look like, and they did an amazing job with that. And I just have to agree with everyone else here who said, like, it's such a godsend for, especially for smaller businesses and those that aren't like funded, to be able to spend tons of money on full-time staff, to have that support that you can hire out to a Fiverr team member who's just amazing.
Awesome. Catherine, what about you? What's your experience been like?
Yeah, I mean, you know, especially as a bootstrap solo founder starting out, I mean, I strongly believe that, you know, you should always focus on the things you're really best at. And for me, that definitely does not mean graphic design or anything that's like too technical with the blog. So it's been incredibly helpful, especially when I was starting out, to, you know, just get that fractional talent into the company that can help fill in these gaps where I'm like, oh, I really want to do this, but I actually really don't know how to do this. And I think this is where Fiverr has really helped us out. And we've been using freelancers on Fiverr also for a few years, specifically also in areas similar to a lot of the other panelists today, like graphic design and also distribution growth, these kinds of jobs. And yeah, it's definitely helped us grow to the point where we are today.
I love that it's part of your story.
Yeah.
Now, I know every business is not without its own obstacles and challenges and things that come up that you couldn't have imagined or prepared for. And if you have a specific story that is because of who you serve, I'd love to hear about that. But regardless, I want to hear about some of the challenges that you've overcome and what it's really been like to build a business. So, Annette.
Yes, so I would say some of the obstacles me and my co-founder faced, especially when we started running events, was like, I think people, more so like men, thinking that they could like just take advantage of us. Probably because, as well as us being women, or us also looking young, so probably them thinking that we're naive. So, you know, we've like there's been a couple of situations where like you know, people have gone against written agreements or not paid us like what was rightfully owed, but thankfully we've always known our rights, so we were able to fight back. So, you know, for us, we were able to overcome these situations. But yeah, I would say those are the main situations that we felt.
So sorry you've encountered that even so early on in your story, but unfortunately, as a woman in business, you likely will be faced with situations that feel like you're only here because of how you look, and that's a really frustrating place to be. Elsie, what about you? What challenges have come up? You're running something that is so stigmatized, and there's so much going on and so much out of your control when it comes to healthcare. So I'm sure there's many challenges that have popped up, but anything specific that you want to point out?
Yeah, there's the regular challenges of like the fact that we can't really shut down because it's healthcare. So we're constantly working, which is just a general, just working challenge. But I think if we think about like something that really made me think differently about just the work that we were doing and how we're perceived, I think that accelerators was really interesting for me entering into that space, especially the larger accelerators that are more male dominated, more like ML, AI dominated, and they're not really interested in women's health, let alone something that's focused on Black women's health. So I got a lot of VCs who would ask me questions like, can this even be a real thing? Can you even sell it? Can you make money off of this? Like, will anyone actually buy it? Like really horrible questions like that. But then on the offhand side, I've had other VCs who are literally like, my wife went through this. I totally get where you're coming from. This is amazing. I understand they want to support. So you get really gross, horrible people, but then you get great people afterwards. So it helps to level out. But I think the main challenges are connected to perception and just the way that honestly men perceive the business and the work, and whether or not it's something that can generate income. But we've seen amazing examples like Maven Clinic, which is now a $1 billion evaluated company. So we know it works, right? So yeah.
I feel you, and the men pushing back on what they think is possible can be such a frustrating point of view, but my goal is to just stick it to them. So our business is in the top 1% of all women in business in the United States, and I know I wouldn't have gotten there if it wasn't because a couple of men told me I couldn't. So, Ganete, what's your story? What challenges have popped up for you?
I love that you said that, Abigail, because I'm definitely that person. I'm like, yeah, if whoever thinks we can't, I would like just run, continue going forward. But we've had tons of challenges, of course. Mansplaining from manufacturers is a big one where I'm like, yeah, I got it the first time, whatever. But on a more light side of things, I've gone through TSA with my carry-on bag that has like my vaginal diagram and all the anatomy pieces. And I've made some security officers very uncomfortable when they open the bag because they're like, metals in there. And then they're like, oh, we need to close this really quickly. And everything's all over the place because they just cannot close it fast enough. So I've had that experience as well, which is pretty funny. I've also been on pitch competitions where we've had all judges that were men. So they were all men and they're like, this is kind of uncomfortable, but it is what it is. The reality is I'm going to keep showing up, and entrepreneurship, not just for women, but in general, is something that can be challenging. So, I mean, it's just one more thing on top of it, and it's okay. I like a challenge.
Yeah. Well, I think we all like a challenge. You don't exactly start a business unless you like a challenge. Catherine, what have been some of your obstacles?
Yeah, I think one of them is really, like, I mean, we, like a lot of entrepreneurs in this space, also struggle with the stigmatization of women's health. There are certain advertising challenges, unfortunately, associated to women's health products and many of the biggest social networks, with, kind of words like breastfeeding, or, I mean, I can't even imagine what you're going through with, like, postpartum and, menstrual topics. We're seeing it on a publisher side. So ad networks will turn us down because we mentioned words like vagina and sexual wellness on the website in a business context and a business site. And we will be told, well, this is too adult and it's not brand safe, which I strongly disagree with. And I will loud and proud say those networks are not my editor and will continue to cover these businesses. The second thing that I find myself struggling with, specifically in the women's health space, is that lots of us are mission-driven founders, and I will proudly say I am a mission-driven founder. But just because I'm a mission-driven founder doesn't mean that my personal boundaries and my, my will to actually turn this into a very successful business go out the window. And I strongly believe that, sort of impact and financial success can exist next to each other. And anybody that tells me to not charge or charge less just because I'm in the women's health space, I will say we don't do that. And I strongly encourage everybody that's a freelancer and on the call today, know your worth and charge for what you're worth always.
Yes. Anna, challenges. What's been happening? I want to know.
So I sort of echo what Elsie was saying, really. We've recently closed, well, I say recently, in end of 2023, closed our pre-seed round, and the fundraising element was hard. And we've got 3 incredible institutional investors and a whole load of amazing angels. But to get to that point, I as well, I am the female founder. The amount of we support female founders. We want to help you in business. Potential investors that are out there that actually just want to be shown, like, to look like they're ticking diversity and inclusion boxes, is kind of outrageous now. And it's a lot. There are a lot of time wasters out there. There are a lot of people who essentially who think that women just need to learn how to pitch, or they need to learn how to be business women, when actually what women need is the money and the funding and the support to start their businesses. We don't need to learn any more than the men do. So that's kind of the main issue that seems to come up time and time again from a sort of a specifically female angle.
Yeah, we will figure it out. So let us figure it out. That's how I think about it. Now, I know all of you are such huge advocates of people, not just in this business, but outside of this business. And I want to know how you like to engage and support other women in business, either through mentorship or networking or initiatives. Elsie, I'd love to start with you.
Yeah, for me, it's an interesting case because I come from academia. So a lot of people who are from a similar space, who have a research background, who have done their PhD or their master's or whatever, and are looking for ways to kind of translate the knowledge that they've developed and create something. That's the group that I think tends to come to me the most. And for me, honestly, now I'm building a website for them just because I would get so many questions around, how do I do this? What do I do here? What type of research do I use? How do I all the questions in the emails you get, the LinkedIn messages, like the millions of texts and stuff that you get. Now I've kind of figured that it makes sense to just put everything in one place and give everybody access to it so that they can just see the way in which I've done things. And I also just do things like this as much as I can and just talk to people like one-on-one, sometimes coffees, whatever it takes, because sometimes all it takes is a little bit of information to help somebody to really progress, right? Or to have more confidence in what they're doing. So I try to do like what people have done for me in the past.
Yeah. I think what you may not realize just yet is you are an educator in the making, and you turning around and sharing your story is a huge part of what's going to help people continue to succeed down the line. So thank you for the work you're doing there, because it's only going to have a ripple effect in this industry. Ganete, what about you? How do you like supporting others?
So for me, I do a few mentorships, well, individuals with folks. And I also have my podcast, which is the Freedom Slave podcast, where I share a lot of the business things that I've learned along the way. And I also bring on other business folks to share their lessons and, things they've learned along the way. Because for me, I am not into gatekeeping of information. If I know it, I want to make it easier and more accessible for the next person coming on, because I understand that we all have something we want to do. It's all something we can create that really changes the world around us. And the quicker we can get that to fruition, the better. So I do that through, like I said, mentorship. I have my podcast, and I'm always open to DMs, and I speak to people all the time. I've done webinars and, of course, events like this where we just share what we have and what we know to help make it easier for the next ones coming through.
Yeah. Catherine, how about yourself?
So we do a few things. So specifically for our community and for people that are interested in the women's health space, or like looking to also make potentially a career change. So we offer free webinars specifically on introductions to the femtech or women's health innovation ecosystem. We also run a quarterly webinar that's free on breaking into femtech, specifically around career search, these kinds of topics. We also work a lot with advocacy groups and do quite a bit of pro bono work in terms of helping them with their, sort of just communication efforts, and also sort of, just with reach through the platform that we do have. And the third thing that we're at the moment doing, and that I'm very excited about, we're actually partnering up with a clinical research group that's specifically working on founder mental health, because I believe specifically for, female founders, I think many of us will know the mental health bit of it can be a little bit of a challenge, and this can be very, very difficult to pull through sometimes, when things are maybe not going so great. So this specific clinical research group is evaluating an open source tool to support founders with their mental health. And we're going to get involved in that specifically to make this available to our community as one of the first people to be involved. So I'm very excited about that.
Yes, I think mental health is such a key component of women's health initiatives. Thank you for that. Anna, obviously, you supporting other women in business is literally baked into your job, but I would love to hear more about what that looks like to engage with people in and outside of your business.
Yeah. Again, it's a sort of a two-sided thing, really. From the kind of the tradeswomen, there are obviously women in business that they will have their own businesses. We have a community for them that we that's really thriving, that we support them with, and we offer as much as we can from partnerships that we can offer them discounts within the trades world. We offer free virtual events, from things like how to eat healthily when you're stuck in your van all day, to legal advice specifically for tradeswomen dealing with like their contracts and things like that. So there's obviously that side of things, and obviously our business itself offers tradeswomen free job leads, or job bookings, I should say. And then I suppose from the kind of startup, kind of founder side of things, I'm still pretty new. Like I've sort of our business is similar age to everyone else's. Sort of I am part of a network called Female Founders Rise in the UK, which is incredible, and attend a lot of their events. And I suppose having recently closed a funding round, that's the thing that I tend to get approached about most. And obviously, I'm so happy to offer my time and war stories and trauma to whoever wants to listen about how to potentially navigate a funding round. And that sort of seems to be the thing that I'm happy to share the most. So, but yeah, always happy to give back.
You're a trooper. I have been too chicken to ever sell a percentage of my company. So I implore you. Annette, how about yourself? How are you supporting and mentoring other women in business?
Yeah, so naturally, I just love helping people. So when it's come to friends in the past, I've always like put the word in for them when it comes to like schemes, accelerators, programs that I think like are relevant or right for them. With Yes Girl, one of our objectives this year is to create like free resources for women, particularly women who are friends, who are thinking about starting a business together. Whether this is through like tip sheets, we're talking about a podcast, and as we already put on events, I feel like networking events would make sense for us as well. Me and my co-founder, we've been working together for like about 4 years now, and we get on so well and we work so well together just because we're compatible. So we really want to provide like other women who may want to work with their friends the tools and also kind of like the hard truth to like successfully go about doing this.
Yes, it's a partnership is a unique way to approach business, and it has its own sets of pros and cons and all of those things. So you are doing incredible work. Now we're going to switch gears and we're going to head into the submitted questions. Our team has been gathering those behind the scenes, so I have those locked and loaded. If you have a question, do not hesitate. Pop it in the chat in the question section, or if you are on social, feel free to comment and the team will get those over to me. We're going to start with Nilda's question. It is for all panelists. I want to know, did you know when you wanted to quit your day job to pursue these avenues, and how did you make that choice? We'll start with Ganete.
Well, Nilda, I think I may be a terrible example because I wanted to quit ASAP. And that isn't the right thing to do for some people. So for me, I actually stopped working full time. I quit my job back in 2019 before I started this business with another business. But even before then, I was at my desk listening to my Amy Porterfield podcasts and all these other things. And I knew at that point that I was a terrible employee. I needed to be moved, right? I needed to do something on my own. So that's it. When you know that you're thinking about the thing you want to do or the things you want to do more than the work that's in front of you, you know you have to do the things you have to do to get there. However, I didn't move or leave the job. I gave in my resignation once I matched or surpassed, I should say, what I was making on a monthly basis with my other business that I had. So at that point, I made the decision to jump. But I mean, when I wanted to was long before then, like immediately, as soon as I got the entrepreneur scratch, I guess you would say, where I'm like, I can't do this for anybody else anymore.
Yeah. Catherine, when did you make the jump? What did that look like?
So for me, it really started as a side project, and it just kind of grew. And I mean, lots of people say they're like born to be entrepreneurs. That was definitely not me. And so I kind of just grew with the challenge and with the reach and with our audience, and sort of to a certain extent, once we had a little bit of traction and were established in the space, some consulting offers started to come in. So in the beginning, I would still sort of, as we like to say, trade my time for money and do a little bit of work that way, and kind of sort of fund my way into actually making my full-time income from the platform. And so that's been kind of the journey into kind of really making this my full-time gig in terms of, making sure that, we were really financially in a good place where what we were doing with the media platform could support me. And so now I really try to not do these one-offs anymore and really invest in the growth of the platform. But yeah, it's been kind of a one step at a time journey, because I feel like I'm a little bit more
timeline on that? Was
the
it
timeline on that? So again, we were 5 years old. So I think it took
5
me
years?
like around 1.5 years until I actually incorporated this. So, it was not a company in the beginning. It was just a newsletter, really.
No,
And then,
totally.
we sort of also grew with the needs of our audience, frankly. And then, sort of built the business model for the platform along with the needs of our audience at the time.
Yeah. Anna, how did you make the decision to jump?
The decision was kind of made for me. Which was kind of good and kind of bad, I suppose. I was working in events, and I was on maternity leave actually with my with our first daughter, with our daughter, our first child, and the pandemic hit, and obviously events was not a good space to be in. So I thought, in a situation where I thought I was totally secure, I'd always worked for other people. I was on maternity leave. I thought that, I was fairly untouchable. I lost my job because obviously I didn't predict the pandemic. But I was also in a fortunate position that I had not substantial, but enough of a redundancy package to give us some breathing space. And I just sort of realized, I could work for somebody else, but ultimately I still lost my job then, and we still have ended up with, no income. So why not give this idea a go? So that it sort of coincided with that.
Yeah. And I definitely relate. I started my business after I was laid off for the second time in my career. And I knew it was the time to just jump in and make those decisions. And while it's definitely a challenge to start from 0 to 60 like that, because there's a lot of pressure when you need to make up an income, but it's also very motivating because now you have all this time and space to go about it. Annette, what about yourself? When did you make the jump?
So my story is a bit similar to Anna. So when I was working, I knew that, I'm tired of this. I just want to work on YesGirl full time. But me and my co-founder just kind of had a plan in terms of like, okay, if we're making this much income from YesGirl, then we can eventually leave our full-time jobs. But earlier this year, I was actually made redundant, which for me was pretty much like a blessing in disguise. Luckily, I got like a really big redundancy package, but it's given us just so much more time, to me especially, to lead on like building the app, and also really like pumping the app events too as well. So yeah, that projected income we can eventually make, and the both of us can do this full time.
Yeah. Elsie, what about you? How did you leave?
Really similar to a lot of people here. I had the moments I'm working for other people where I was like, I can't do this anymore. But I also had the moments where I was in grad school as well. So like I said, I started this during grad school. I actually left grad school because it got bigger than what I could contain. I was working full time at one point for public health. It also left that job. Again, once I knew I could kind of pay myself the income that I was getting from work, is up a large part of it as well. So those were the major reasons why I ended up working for myself. And that was probably honestly just 2 years ago that I really left my full-time job and left everything and said, I'm just going to focus on this. And yeah, that's what happened. Honestly, it just got bigger than what I could contain.
I mean, I don't think it's a problem that it's bigger than you can contain. That means your ideas are growing and your vision is expanding, but I totally get it. At some point you're like, I literally don't have the capacity to do both, and you have to make a decision. The next question is from Lashana, and she specifically wants to know, in your plan to execute on this vision, did you run across any legal or geographical restrictions when you were getting started? So Catherine, we'll start with you. Legal, geographical, things that you couldn't have predicted.
So fortunately, we have not had too many challenges on the legal side so far. I think what we do struggle with is kind of just the stigma aspect of it. So I do run an online publication. That was a very conscious choice, and sort of so we don't really struggle that much with the geographical restrictions in terms of where we're available. Language has been a topic for us. So we have actually recently launched a new AI-based project called Femtech Bot. You can also look it up, femtechbot.com. And Femtech Bot is trained on all our content on our site. So everything that we've written over the past 5 years, and it speaks every language on the planet. So, even for those that maybe, do not speak English, are still able to kind of learn about the ecosystem and, get up to date on the latest and greatest in the wonderful world of women's health innovation.
Incredible. I love the expansion to other languages. I have personally been intimidated by that, but you're very inspiring. So thank you for sharing that. Anna, what about yourself? Legal, geographical? I know you're limited to the UK right now. I'm begging you, please expand. But
we'd love to. The geographical, no, not so far. We'd always planned to kind of launch in London with the view to move to other UK cities, but we know that this is an issue, worldwide. No one's kind of nailed this yet. So whilst we've not actually kind of attempted the geographical move yet, and I'm sure there'll be plenty of problems, we haven't stumbled across any from a legal perspective. There's not been any surprises. I suppose the one thing that kind of came up right at the start was the kind of fact that your gender is a protected trait. When obviously we're promoting and supplying tradeswomen. That was something that we kind of knew starting off, but we also knew that if you looked at any other trades platform, only men were being marketed. Ultimately, if a man wanted to join our platform, they'd be very welcome to, but they probably wouldn't get any business because our customers aren't looking for tradesmen, they're looking for tradeswomen. And that seemed to be that was the sort of thing that we kind of spoke to our legal team the most about to ensure that we had that quite watertight. But it's the thing that we get the most sort of angry comments about on Instagram, always from men, and tends to be ignored. So
yeah, I think that can be a challenge, but I think you are doing it eloquently. So Annette, how about yourself? Legal, geographical?
So my co-founder is the one who more so oversees the legal aspects of things. I kind of take a step back. So she would be much better to answer it. But no, we haven't really had to deal with any legal geographical restrictions. Our friendship app, we plan on rolling it out first within the UK, and then we want to grow it out just because the loneliness epidemic isn't just restricted to the UK. It's a really big Western global problem. So yeah, I'm sure when we start to branch out, that's when we'll see any issues. But for now, it's all good.
Yeah. Elsie, what about yourself?
Well, for us, it's healthcare, so it's a lot different. So we have to deal with health privacy, data restrictions, making sure our data is protected and secured and all that good stuff because we're dealing with healthcare data. We're also dealing with other types of data like people's just general information, demographic information, etc. That's also a part of healthcare data, but it's separate as well. So having to deal with that, I think for us as well, we're based in Canada, so which provinces that our healthcare professionals can actually provide care in. So for example, state to state, you have to be licensed, the same thing as here. So just trying to sort that out for individuals and ensuring that they can provide virtual care and in-person care and looking for loopholes around that. And COVID helped with a lot of loopholes around that, which was great. I think other challenges, I think the same thing as we move and build teams in new provinces. Some of them are French speaking. So finding French speaking teams and now trying to rebuild the content on our website so it's in French is something that we're working on in this moment. So these are all things that we've had to think of and work towards. As far as legal, I learned real early that I needed a lawyer on staff, contracted to me as long as possible, because I was signing contracts and ending up in ridiculous situations because I was naive as heck. But I mean, like someone talked about it earlier on, signing contracts and people not fulfilling their work, or just like things that happen in business, right? So those are all learning challenges over time. And having a lawyer, like if I could advise anyone, if I know you can't afford it, there's accelerators that provide it for free. If you can get a lawyer early on, just do that. Make sure that you develop contracts and templates ahead of time, and just protect yourself as a business and as an individual.
Yeah, I know I've needed a lawyer multiple times in my business, and they all have specialties. So, I do have someone I go to if it's a contract issue, someone if I've had my IP stolen more times than I can count. So if I need to go after someone for that, it's a different set of skills. So you paying attention to the needs and really making sure you're identifying and connecting with the right person who can help you get there. Okay, Ganete, what about you? Legal, geographical.
Yeah. So prior to being an entrepreneur, I'm actually a certified trust and estate practitioner. So I had a pretty decent hold on the legal aspect of things, like how the companies are set up. So before like founding this business, we got a lot of legal, like not issues, but legal things sorted. We made sure from the beginning we wanted to start it founderly sound, right? So we did get everything sorted in that way, got the trademarks and those things. But because a menstrual cup is a medical device, you have to follow certain legal guidelines in different countries. So there are countries that we don't have a specific, like for Health Canada, for instance, right? That's why there aren't many menstrual cups on shelves in Canada, simply because you need Health Canada registration. FDA registration doesn't matter, so it's just those kinds of things. But we're focused on expanding in the US retail space for now. As far as geographical, we're also in retail in Kuwait. We're in one retail store in Kuwait, but we're in tons in the US. But we haven't had any issues at all outside of that. It's just making sure from the very beginning, the more you can get sorted on the legal side at the beginning, and the more you can become aware of what's required of you and your business model from the beginning, the easier I believe it gets as you go forward. And just keeping an eye out for what's changing in the legal landscape as well would be helpful.
Yeah, once you start having those people in your back pocket, you know where to go and what the steps are. It doesn't feel as intimidating the next go around. Okay, so the next question is, what are some things I can do to get people to market my business? I've been posting on all social media platforms. Now, I'm assuming this person wants to dig into like, how are you building brand loyalty so they will spread the message for you? But we'll start with Anna here.
I suppose obviously it depends what kind of business it is. What we do is we obviously do post on social media, but we're not just advertising what we're doing. We post stories about our tradeswomen. We post facts and data around our industry. We give people kind of content that they can kind of learn from, as well as just, telling them that we exist. Also, user-generated content is also quite a big one. People really kind of embrace that, especially on social platforms. I suppose another path would potentially be a collaboration. So we've done collaborations in the past with interior influencers and also some interiors brands, a lighting brand called Tala. And they've also helped kind of project our reach to their audience. And we've specifically kind of like chosen or agreed to those kind of partnerships because they are in the London area. And for us, London is obviously where we're based at the moment. So that's another option, reaching out to influencers, and they don't have to have a huge reach. You can look at micro influencers and see if you can collaborate on a project like that.
Yeah. Annette, what about you? How are you creating brand loyalty?
How we're creating brand loyalty, to be honest, is largely through social media. But I did want to say that, social media is a great way to build brand loyalty, but it doesn't have to be the only way. I say this because I used to work in marketing when I had a full-time job, and social media didn't work for us at all. I would say for the person asking that question, maybe thinking about like word of mouth and awarding referrals as well. Maybe if they're a local business, potentially like starting small, putting out flyers. If they like have a product and if they can afford to, maybe potentially like give out freebies with their business cards, and also like going to networking events and trade events. That's a really good way. I like specialize in SEO and paid ads. So if that's something that they're capable of doing or maybe outsourcing, I would say those are like great and really good ways to really put out your business.
Yeah. Elsie, you've already mentioned referrals as part of what's been working for you, but what else has been going on?
I think for us, the large majority of our clientele come through word of mouth, and I think it's because it's like women's health and its pregnancy. So typically, what happens is somebody tells their friend, and their friend tells their friend, and that's how we get our clients. But then, in addition to that, we work with, I guess, our referrals come from healthcare professionals. Same kind of method. One professional finds out, and they tell another professional, and then they all just start using our services. So that's always been our method. We haven't done any extreme marketing just because we can't. It's just beyond our capacity at this point. But I think everybody's provided a lot of really amazing tips with social media specifically. Maybe focus in on finding groups and posting in there specifically and chatting and being more involved in those groups and different conversations that are aligned with whatever it is that you're developing or building or your product. I think another thing is accelerators. Accelerators do an amazing job at helping to highlight your work as well to a larger audience. And so joining those also would really help. And I think like another thing that I think would work really well for just trying to get your brand out there is looking at examples. Like I always talk about Summer Fridays. They do an amazing job at connecting with local brands. So they taking their product and their aesthetic outside into the streets, into stores, creating smoothies around it, having things outside that people can see and take photos of, taking advantage of that to get like some type of viral moment at least and engage a larger audience, especially when you have a product. I think that works really well as well. And then also don't like take advantage of just general media, right? So yeah, like newspapers, etc.
Okay, awesome. Ganete, what about you?
I think it really starts from looking at who your customer is, of course, right? And finding out where she is or where they are, And from there, that way you aren't just throwing spaghetti on the wall and hoping it would stick. You're figuring out exactly where they are and which social platforms they tend to gravitate towards. But beyond that, I find for us, nothing's too small. One of our things that were really successful, because I love guerrilla marketing as well. I went to an Apple store when one of the new iPhones, I don't remember now, but one of them came out. And I literally went to every iPad, I went to every phone, I put our website on it. And we had so many signups just from that. And I know it's something small, but we don't own our social platforms, right? So the more you can get people onto your social, off of social and onto your email list where you can share that information, the better. And on social, I think Anna had mentioned it as well. It's beyond just showing what you're offering, but giving them helpful content that they can then move forward with and say, oh, let me follow this page because I know I'm going to learn something from there. I'm going to get something else from them. And when you have that give mentality, they're often more likely to share your content. And of course, little things like QR codes on your packaging to remind people to go and share what they just purchased on social can be helpful as well. But I have a ton of tips, but I will be on here all day. But yeah, that's a few for me.
I love it. You've got them down, and I know you got more to say, but you're holding back. So I get it. I appreciate it. Catherine, anything to add with this?
Not too much, to be honest. I think it's for us, it has been similar to a lot of other panelists. It's been word of mouth. And, it really starts with really know your audience, put out a really, really good product. And if they like it, encourage them to share and also maybe incentivize them to share. I will say referral programs are definitely top of my list for me. So I might actually reach out to a Fiverr freelancer for that. But yeah, so really incentivize your audience and, to help you spread the word. Finishing the sentence.
Yeah.
There we go.
Well, we are getting close to the end. So we have one more question. It's okay if we go over a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and still pose it to all of you. But this Cindy mentioned she had recently quit her job to pursue an idea. And she said, not going to lie, it's a very scary chapter. Any advice on something you wish you had known when you started out, when you just got off the ground? We'll start with Annette.
Something I wish I'd known. I would say probably the amount of market research that you need to do. I think so. I felt like, so for us, when we first had this idea, we probably like did a little bit of reading and thought, oh great, yeah, we've got the market, and then go into it. And then we were on an accelerator program for about a year, but they really drilled into us like, guys, is this like okay, like you've gone to a few sources and you've seen, and it's kind of like tick your boxes, but like, do you really have a market demographic? Is this really a viable product? Can you do it yourselves? Especially because we thought, we didn't really look into the numbers in terms of how much it would be to create an app. We just thought, oh yeah, like if we do this pitch and we get this money, we can just like, we can just give them money and build this app and then everything's great. And it just wasn't like that for us. So I think when it got to the end of the year for us, it was a bit of a shock. And we were like, oh, what do we do? So I'll just say do as much market research as you can in every aspect of what you're doing. Yeah.
You plan ahead, and then you plan ahead for A, B, C, D, E, G, Z. Plan, because you just don't know what's going to pop up. I appreciate that. Elsie, what's something you would share with someone who is just starting and is scared and needs some advice?
I think just don't be afraid of failure. Know that it's normal and it's okay, and that that there are opportunities to like create an opportunity to still win, even if you feel like you're failing in the moment. I think just like was said just earlier, also market research, just really do your research and just understand your market, understand product viability, understand and have a backup plan. And what I mean by that is like income wise, just make sure you're supported, whether you're working part-time or you have something saved. Really be sure that you understand how long it'll last for, and try to figure out your numbers and see how far you can go with the business before needing more income. Just plan and know that you can do it, really, honestly.
I'm going to beat in cash flow for a second, because the only two ways that you ever fail in a business is you either run out of cash or you quit. So managing cash flow is a huge piece of this puzzle. And if you're new, it's definitely something I would be paying attention to. Ganete, what about you? What's a piece of advice you would leave them?
Okay, so I was going to say cash flow. We're going to change it now.
Sorry.
No, it's important. I'm glad you doubled down on it. So I would say building your community of super supporters even earlier. So for us, a lot of people, when you come on board or you have a new idea, especially if you just quit your job, you're holding on to it and it's really sacred to you, right? So you don't want to share it with too many people. But what I found for us was helpful was I created a private close friend group on our Instagram page. And I was sharing behind the scenes with people that wanted to go behind the scenes with us. And that same group were the ones sharing when we first launched into retail and, on our email list at first and all of those things. So I would have done that even earlier because they were such a big support. And the more people you can get on board early on to be your super connectors, the ones who are on there telling everybody about you, sharing on all their pages and doing all those things, the more that you can grow and the quicker you can grow. Because even if it's someone who has 10 followers, that's 10 followers you don't have, right? It's a whole different community and they can share with their community. So I would say don't undervalue the importance of building a small community of people who know what you're doing, even behind the scenes, and getting them involved so they're really there from the beginning of your brand story.
Yeah, and when you say get them involved, I know you mean, and many times I'm sure you ask them to share. Like, hey, we're launching, like spread the word. We want people to know. So part of it is hyping those people up who are craving to support you and giving them that opportunity. Catherine, what's a piece of advice you would leave someone?
So I kind of, got into entrepreneurship, not the entrepreneurial superstar that I probably should have been. And so I think, at the very beginning, I really assumed that everybody else knew more about running a business and specifically running my business. And I actually did. And I think the one thing that I've learned over the years, I am the expert in my business. And I became very, very careful with whose advice I take. And so, there's a lot of people that are incredibly smart and that have a lot to share with you. But there's also people that, are very, very well intentioned, but to simply, have run very, very different businesses or have not necessarily been in your bootstrap founder shoes. So I think really, you're the expert at your business. Trust your gut with a lot of things, and go for it. You got this.
Yeah, learning who to listen to. It'll take some time, and you'll probably make some mistakes listening to some people you maybe shouldn't have along the way. But those are important lessons early on. Anna, what about you?
Well, I feel you just joined like an exclusive club. Essentially, it doesn't change. I think that's probably the most important piece of advice I'd probably impart. That you'll always have the startup roller coaster. There will always be ups and downs, and they just get easier to deal with. And to just hold on to your vision, but don't hold on to how you get there. Be prepared to pivot. Be okay with that. Listen to advice and go with the stuff that you like, and just disregard the stuff that you don't. To get to make sure that you're always heading towards your vision, but don't be scared of pivoting, because that's not failing. That's just smart.
Yeah, don't be scared to pivot. That's just smart. Yes, so agree. Thank you guys all so much for being here. Unfortunately, everyone, we're reaching the end of our conversation today with these amazing entrepreneurs. First of all, you guys, incredible. I am so grateful I've gotten to know your stories and, stalked you online and saw what you're doing. And I encourage everyone watching today, please go follow our panelists. Make sure you're connecting with them. They would love your support. They are too in business and they want to see you be successful, but let's show them some love by stopping in with them. We will be sharing this recording of the panel discussion on the Fiverr YouTube channel, where you're welcome to continue the conversation over there in chat. If you've registered for this event, we will also be sending you a follow-up email when that replay is available, with a link to the survey, as well as an opportunity for a chance to win $100 Fiverr credit. So be sure to pay attention to that. Once again, thank you guys so much for being here. If you haven't yet watched the International Women's Day video featuring these amazing panelists, it's a good one. So good. So impressed. I immediately sent so many congratulations to the Fiverr team, because they did such an incredible job putting that together. Definitely worth a watch. Have a great rest of your day. And thank you guys so much for being here.